Well, as all of this is developing now, India is also working towards diplomatically isolating Pakistan after the Pulwama attack. Now, senior foreign ministry officials are reaching out to important partners and apprising them of Pakistan's inaction against terror. The foreign secretary and secretaries from other ministries are meeting with envoys of different countries. It includes the Gulf nations, nations from Europe, Japan, South Korea. The Indian ambassadors have begun briefing foreign governments about this terror attack. And the Indian envoy to Thailand has also called on the Director General of the Department of South Asian Affairs at the Thai Foreign Office to brief about the Pulwama attack as well. So this is the diplomatic pressure that the Prime Minister was talking about this morning after the Cabinet Security meeting, that there will be an intensification of pressure on Pakistan. And Siddhant Sibal is now joining us live for the very latest on this meeting of our Foreign Secretary and other secretaries. Now, Siddhant, so we are engaging with all stakeholders and trying to put as much diplomatic pressure as we can on Pakistan, even as we look at other areas of how we can, really come down heavy on Pakistan after this horrible, horrible tragedy.
Well, yes, Bharvi, diplomacy has taken center stage, even as India is, of course, realizing the magnitude of this tragedy, the terror attack which took place in Jammu and Kashmir yesterday. India, even as we speak, is briefing envoys of foreign countries. This happened also after the Uri attack. We know that even as we speak, India is briefing the P5 Gulf, South Korea, Japan, these countries, and there will be a next batch also. And Indian envoys across the world have also started briefing up their counterparts in foreign ministries. So clearly the diplomatic pressure which the Cabinet Committee on Security talked about is this basically exposing Pakistan at the world space stage. We do also know that at the United Nations, India will be now taking a concerted effort on the passage of the Comprehensive Convention on Terrorism, which calls for a common definition on terrorism, something that the world could not agree because of lack of consensus. But it's primarily diplomacy which is the focus a day after that terrible tragedy which happened in Jammu and Kashmir. India, of course, will be also focusing on other measures. We know that already the most favored nation status from Pakistan has been withdrawn. There will be a formal notification by the Commerce Ministry. The next step could be the Indus Water Treaty, but also on other aspects as well. But the long shadow of this tragedy will also fall on the Kartarpur talks. It seems 14th March is the day when the Pakistani delegation comes here in Delhi to talk about the Kartarpur corridor. As of now, no official or unofficial word from the government that will these talks happen or not. But obviously, the tragedy, the magnitude of tragedy will have some impact. And
Siddhant, now let's talk about the other diplomatic pressure that presumably India will try to create now that it is meeting different ambassadors. Other than Pakistan, I'm presuming China will also be something that will be discussed on now. How can countries come together to sort of persuade China to allow Masood Azhar to be designated a global terrorist under the UN Security Council Commission?
Well, what we know is that India is also briefing the P5 envoys, which include China. China is a country which everyone was keenly watching for a reaction, and they were the last country to react. They reacted only after 1 p.m. local time here in New Delhi. And of course, focus will be on designation of Masood Azhar as an international terrorist, because we know that China was putting a technical hold at the United Nations for the designation of Masood as an international terrorist under the 1267 Committee of the United Nations Security Council. That is something that India has been calling on Beijing to do, so that to remove the technical hold. But today we saw the reaction. It was the same old reaction. Of course, something that New Delhi knew that this will be the reaction. But India will be now keenly engaging with Beijing, given the fact that as of now ties between both the countries are in positive trajectory, especially because of the Wuhan spirit between the two countries, Beijing and New Delhi. So obviously we do expect the Prime Minister, who has personally invested on the relationship, the personal relationship with the Chinese President Xi Jinping, to call on him to make sure that this person is designated as an international terrorist, because it feels that Pakistan is and will be becoming a liability for China very soon.
Right, and Siddhant, before I let you go now, one quick question on Ajay Bisaria being called back for consultations. There was some speculation whether he was being recalled or whether this was consultation. Anas was also pointing about whether he would be summoned as well by the Pakistani side. So what else are you picking up on this?
Well, when it comes to Ajay Bisaria, yes, he will be coming back to New Delhi. It's a normal part of protocol consultations. Anytime when such kind of events happen, terror attack happened. I know last year when the diplomatic harassment was taking place, the Pakistanis called their envoy, but it's definitely not a recall. Recall is a different terminology in diplomacy. Recall is much bigger, and of course, it's done to send out a message. It's part of the normal consultation process in which India will be discussing with its envoy what are the options on the table, what are the other steps which can be taken with Pakistan. We also know there was a dinner being planned with the Pakistani media which has been cancelled now, and of course we do expect much more steps by the Indian High Commissioner in Pakistan, given the fact that the magnitude of tragedy is just now is unfolding, and when the coffins will go home, it will be much more tragic. The visual will be much more tragic.
Of the CRPF soldiers on their shoulders, and Rajnath Singh has also assured that the government will take all necessary steps to avenge the attack after taking the coffin near the truck that would take the bodies to the Srinagar airport, and then of course being flown into a special aircraft to New Delhi, where the Prime Minister will also be paying his last respects. And Rajnath Singh shortly after this also in fact gave a press conference where he said that we will avenge this attack and that the main highway will be shut to civilians for the convoy to pass now between Jammu and Srinagar. And Ishan Wani, my colleague, is now joining us on the phone line from Srinagar for the very latest on this. And Ishan, so while Rajnath Singh giving a short press conference there, not giving out any details, obviously, at this point of what the investigation has said, he was asked a question on the standard operating procedures, whether they were not, kept in mind when this convoy was moving. But more importantly, he spoke about communal harmony. He also spoke about, certain people taking money from Pakistan and ISI. Do we know who exactly he was talking about?
But it seems that he was indicating towards the Hurriyat leadership who have been getting the protection from the state. It looks like the government is now going to talk tough on the part of the separatists. They are going to take out the security that they have provided them since a long time. Remember, the separatists have been given security, given the fact that they also have sometimes faced a threat from the militant outfit. But at the same time, Rajnath Singh has said that these people receive funds from the ISI, Pakistan ISI, and that is why now these concrete steps need to be taken. Apart from that, there are several other issues that Rajnath Singh touched, which includes that the movement of civilian vehicles will be stopped on the national highway when the security vehicles pass through that particular area. And he said that this may cause inconvenience to the people, but at the same time, this is something which is necessity of the time. At the same time, Rajnath Singh was right in saying that he wouldn't give out any details of the investigations, because that wouldn't be right on the part of the Home Minister giving out any operational details, because right now, as we reported earlier, that 7 people have been detained from 2 villages in South Kashmir, but they are there for just questioning. One of them has been let off, who was from Tral area. But as you know, that NIA has also joined the probe. We'll have to wait and watch that. When does the security forces take out the security from those people who Rajnath Singh has indicated, which possibly looks like the separatist leadership in Kashmir?
Okay, well, that's an interesting point you're making, that he has, of course, come out with a statement which presumably could be for the separatist leaders. Now, Ishan, there was one more statement that he made, but we would like to clarify that he said that, the highway will be shut to civilians for the army convoys to pass. Does this mean that the national highway from, Jammu to Srinagar is being shut, or certain areas in Pulwama are being shut? Could you clarify that for us?
Well, he did not precisely mention what would happen, but what traditionally used to happen before the Mufti Said's government came in, that the vehicular movement on that stretch of the road was stopped, and then, these vehicles of security forces would pass. But that caused a lot of inconvenience to the people, and later on they were let, these vehicles were part of the civilian vehicle cavalcade that was going through the national highway. Remember, national highway is a very difficult place, and if there are any traffic jams, that can lead to, traffic halt for days altogether. So that is why Because of that problem, civilian vehicles were also allowed to fly at the same time when the security forces were passing through that area. But now, because of this particular attack, this is not a hit-and-run case, this is a suicide attack. So to avert such attacks in the future, this is the first strategy. It seems clearly that it's the first strategy of the security forces to immediately stop these sort of attacks, which could happen more in Kashmir. Because the month back, there was a report that a Jaish commander who has been trained in Afghanistan and is an ID expert had crossed over and was residing in Pulwama district. This may very well be also, a part of his the idea to detonate this particular car bomb. Because what security forces and agencies had then reported was that the person was very close to the Maulana Masood Azhar and was someone who was expert in making such explosives. So at the same time, now coming back to the highway, highway has been something which has, time and time again come under the attack of these militants, be it from that particular stretch or the other forces are going to take this measure that they are going to stop these civilian vehicles at certain points. But we'll have to wait and watch that what transpires. How do they implement this particular scheme that they have introduced now?